Hello, hello, my friends in Sasquatch Land. Hello, 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 my friends in Sasquatch Land. And Discover Sasquatch is back on Tuesday night once again. Threw you off a little bit last week on Wednesday, but now we're back at our regular scheduled time. And do we have another great show for you tonight? We have Miss Laurie Dyer-Hood and her daughter, Lauren A. Smith, in the studio backstage at the moment. And we're looking very forward to hearing all about their investigations and all about Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio and everything they have to share with us. If you recall, Laurie was on the show. I'm going to get tongue-tied tonight with Laurie and Lauren at the same time. Laurie was on the show a while back, and she kind of left us off at this spot and said she'd be back and bring Lauren with her. So they are here, and I'm looking very forward to having them on the program. So hello, everybody in the chat. Miss Francesca, the Squatch Father himself is in the house. Alfred Santariga, Miss Diane Fowler. Hello, how are you? Mr. Steve Wolf, Diane Fowler. Glad to see all of you today. I am going to do the drawing for the autographed Scott Carpenter book and the mug at the end of the show. Here's the mug. Here's the book. All the names are in the mug, and we'll do the drawing at the end. Hello, Mr. Gary Spike Sr. So, I just wanted, before we bring him out, I'm just going to take this one moment in time. I was filling out all the names and writing them down on a piece of paper and seeing the same names over and over again on each podcast. And I just want to let you know how much that really means to us here. And that helps us keep on going, because sometimes it gets a little too much, and you get the trolls coming at you and this and that, and it's a little overwhelming. But to see the same names and the same great comments, and you guys are very, very kind, and I really appreciate it. Love you guys all, and I appreciate all of you. So that's enough of me. That's enough of me babbling. So without any further ado, I am going to bring out the dynamic duo of Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio and Sasquatch Research, Laurie Dyer-Hood and Lauren A. Smith. Hello, ladies. How are you?
We're doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking time out of your busy night and sharing it with us here at Discover Sasquatch.
Absolutely. We are honored to be here. We're so used to being in the interview seat that it's always very weird, but very flattering to be on the other side of the mic. So.
Right. And you guys have been on the other side of the mic and on the other side of the forest, and you have lots of investigations and lots of research, and I mean, boots on the ground, and that's where it's at. That's where everybody learns, and it's very important. And I welcome you to the show, and I can't wait to get everything started. But before we do, the show is called Family Values. And earlier this week, Lauren's little boy got in a skateboard accident and got pretty hurt. So if you guys could keep him in your prayers. I didn't want to name names. I didn't know if that was okay to say names. I'm just going to say your little boy. And so if you keep him in your prayers, everybody, I guess I found out today that he's doing better. And
yeah, he's doing well.
So
prayers are definitely appreciated. His name is Adam. A lot of you know that he is my little footer. So he had an accident at the skate park. He fell 8 feet and he knocked out his teeth and fractured his jaw. He had to have dental surgery. So he's doing way better today. He's eating solids and all of that. So thank you guys for your prayers and kind words and everything. And he will be back in the field soon.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you, Chris, for that.
I'm glad that he's doing better. I had that same accident when I was little. I'm sure he'll grow up better looking than myself. But I tripped over a rose bush and I landed face first in a driveway.
Oh, man.
And just like him, all my teeth popped out and had this. It was just awful. So
yeah, it was traumatic.
So, all right. So when your mom was here last, she left off, at the end of, we were talking about the helicopters, how she was, her recordings and all this, and how they, every time she would get a recording, the helicopters would come by and how they moved from place to place. And, how did you, Lauren, get involved? At what age did you finally first hit the field?
I think I was 12 or 13, maybe. I was a preteen, I believe. And my mom, I had moved off to Oklahoma with my dad, and my mom was kind of bored, honestly, without me there to keep her on her toes, of course. And so she started, looking at the chat rooms and all of that. And then, just eventually ended up believing in this thing, and then had her sighting. And from there, she took me with her. So summer vacations, any breaks, anything like that, I was in the woods with her. And so I have pictures of me standing on a 4-wheeler with a tape measure in front of a tree, and just learning how to cast tracks, learning all about wood knocks and whoops and vocals and rock throwing. And but the most amazing part is that I got to get out in the woods with my mom. And yeah, we were out there looking for Bigfoot, and it was this mythical thing, whatever. But we had a lot of good quality time, and I learned a lot while I was out there. I tell people, they're like, they don't understand. They think Bigfoot is just going out in the woods and knocking on trees and hooping and hollering, and that's not what we do. That's not all that we did back then. I learned how to collect evidence. I learned how to analyze data. I think I was 14, sitting behind the computer, putting data into a spreadsheet to compare lunar cycles with sighting reports. And so that's the kind of stuff that we would do. And people, it was an interesting way to grow up. I will say that. But I have to say, before that, she was already weird. So this wasn't really that big a deal, So I grew up weird, and I'm not mad at it. My kids are weird too. It's fine. They're the next little footers. Right.
Laurie, did you catch any slack of bringing your young daughter out into the field? Were there people that would come at you and say, why are you bringing your daughter out into the forest? It's not safe for her. Did you ever come across that?
No, I didn't, because other people brought their children. So it was kind of inconvenient to have kids there, especially when it got really hairy, literally.
Yeah.
So, you really had to try to think about how your kids were feeling at that time and everything else. But at the same time, I was so eat up with Bigfoot that it was like, oh, you're fine. You're fine. I mean, that's what I always would say, wouldn't it?
Yes.
You're fine. Everything's fine,
It's
but
fine.
it wasn't really fine.
They're not throwing rocks at us. It's acorns. It's fine.
So let's relive one of those moments. Let's relive one of those moments where you're telling your daughter it's going to be fine and things are going crazy in the forest.
Yes.
Well, as a child, that would happen. So one of those moments, we were on a Native American reservation. I don't know which one.
Gracemont in Oklahoma.
And there had been an individual, bear was there. And he had been telling these great stories of Bigfoot attacking women, Native American women, any race of woman, and attacking them and impregnating them and all of these horrible things. And so the great thing for a young teen to hear. So then when we get out there, I had to go to the bathroom, and they had convinced me to go to the bathroom on what looked like a bedding area. And I did. And then later I was terrified when dark came, of course. I was terrified that Bigfoot was going to come abduct me and make me his lady wife. And I mean, I was honest to God terrified. And then I'm not sure if we had rocks thrown at us, or it was a place where, I think it was a place where people had rocks thrown at them previously. And that's why we were there, was to kind of investigate that area. And I was so terrified that I remember wanting to go hide in the minivan. Like, I wanted to go get under the seat and hide. I was so scared. And it was utterly terrifying. And she was like, "It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. They're not going to come get you. It's fine. They're not throwing rocks. It's okay." And I'm like, I was utterly terrified. So now I make sure to tell my kids, and whenever I give my spiel about educating the next the next generation of little footers, I make sure that, because everyone's like, well, you don't want them to be scared. How do you get them to not be scared? I'm like, well, don't tell them that Bigfoot's going to eat them. Don't lie to them, but you don't have to tell those horrible, scary stories. You can tell them to respect them like any animal out there, any creature in nature. You can tell them to respect them without terrifying the ever living out of them, and then sending them out to the woods and wondering why they're so scared,
Now, why do you guys think it is that everybody makes these things out to be these big, scary creatures of the woods that are going to come and rip you apart? Why do you think it is? Is it because of folklore, or why?
Some of it, I believe, would be folklore, especially, if the individual is Native American or has heard Native American folklore. But I think a lot of it is just fear of the unknown. You fear what you don't know, and we don't know much about these creatures. So people want to, be loaded for bear and go out in the woods and just, be terrified of this big, scary thing, which, you can be safe and smart without being utterly terrified. So right. Laurie, what was the biggest lesson you were trying to teach to young Lauren at the time? What was the biggest lesson you wanted her to learn at an early age? Yes, or do tell.
Well, I wanted to teach her everything about Bigfoot. She really wasn't interested. In fact, when she was 13 or 14 years old, she says, "I hate Bigfoot," because Bigfoot was more important in her eyes. And she would come and see me, it was my visitation, and I'd be dragging her off into the woods, or I would be having her with piles of data, we'd be going through this data to create a database. And, but I think the most important thing I wanted to teach her was that they won't hurt you, and that she's perfectly safe, no matter how young or old she is, because I believe that. Now, maybe that doesn't go for every state in the United States or every area, but the area that I had, I knew what they would do and what they wouldn't do. I knew they wouldn't harm us at all, because I went out there completely by myself. No weapons, no dog, no camera, nothing. And I just went out there and walked. Yeah. And I truly believe that after they, saw me several times, and it was always the same, I was consistent. And I just felt that I didn't always feel safe, honestly, because there were times I smelled urine really strong. I couldn't see anything. There were times that I walked into that wall, that infrasound. And then there were times I heard breathing, and very close, but I could not see them. And this is during the day. I could not see them. They were so well hid. But I knew they were there because I could smell them.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think the main thing I tried to teach her was that they were an incredibly interesting species, and I don't believe that they would hurt you.
Right.
So, Lauren, when did you snap? When did you snap out of the I hate Bigfoot stage and started listening to Mom and started enjoying yourself?
Well, real quick, I just want to say hi to Graz.
I want to say hi, Graz.
Graz was part of the original Nite Callers, and he was one of our first co-hosts. And so I just want to say hi to him real quick because I saw him say hi. Graz, of course, we remember you, and we still hold you very near and dear to our heart.
And we still love you, too.
Yes. So, I mean, you're very hard to forget, and I mean that in the best way. So, anyway, yes.
He was an excellent host, by the way.
He was.
He had the best questions, and
he was very skeptical in a good way. So, I just want to say hi to Graz real quick. I popped out of my... Well, the thing is, so I grew up, like I said, being dragged into the woods, being dragged to all these campouts.
Dragged. Notice that's the key word, dragged.
I was drugged. So I was brought to states away, different states with all these adults. And when you're a young person, you don't care if the president of the United States is going to be at an event. You just want other young people at the event. Well, she said other people brought their kids. No, one person brought their kid, and she was way weirder than we were. So it was boring. It's like we would go and I would not know anybody, and all the adults are talking, and I'm like, So then, but yet when I was on my own anywhere, I was always looking. I was looking for evidence. I was looking for sign. I was listening and looking around to see if, Bigfoot was around. And I was so inundated with it that it was a natural instinct. It still is. Anytime I go to a national park anywhere, I'm looking for sign. I'm looking for evidence. I'm looking to see if they could be here. So then about in my 20s, she had started Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio, and it was one of the first Bigfoot shows. And she had me come on as a co-host, and
which she did not speak hardly at all.
Yeah, I didn't. I ran the chat and the links and all that. I mean,
just every once in a while she'd say, "Excuse me, we have a phone call."
Yeah, I really didn't join in much until later years.
She sure didn't. And then we gave her we actually gave her a segment, and it was, what was it? Footers in the Field.
Footers in the Field.
Yeah, and she would tell about different stories and entries that people sent in and things like that.
Yeah. Like Grass said, that was back in the dark ages of podcasting with just audio. There was no video back then. It was a call-in show on telephones. The audio was terrible. You could not control who called in.
And I had terrible lag, so I was always
interrupting the guest.
I was always interrupting the guest, and because of where I lived, it was like a 5-second lag. So I'm jumping in right on top of them. And now I'm editing these older programs, and it's just like I just want to cringe because there's so many times I just jumped right in on top of people, or everybody talks at one time.
Right, because you couldn't control it. I mean, it would be like if, you can't see each other. Anyway, so about the time that we started that podcast, I call it a podcast, it was just an audio show, is when I started getting back into it and kind of flipping and going to be more interested in it. And so we went to Hanobi that year, and we kind of started talking to other people, and I started really feeling that passion or that excitement about it that I had never really felt before that she had. And then the older I got and the more I started going out in the field myself, going out with different groups and learning more and going out with her, I started catching that passion for it. And now I take my kids out and teach them about everything.
So it's a legacy. It's a
legacy. And then I take my kids out and I do a presentation called Littlefooters, the Next Generation, because I feel that it's very important to get that next generation raised up right.
Better than I did.
Raised up knowing more information, getting outdoors, data collection, just knowing about nature, the flora and fauna of where you live, and if it can support a Bigfoot habitat and, that kind of thing. So
I was really a terrible mother.
You were not a terrible
I was
mother.
so obsessed with Bigfoot that it was like, oh, I did bring my child. Let me go look in the windows. Yes, good. I mean, it was like set my equipment up and just, it was.
I was older though. I was, of an age where I could be left to my own devices while she went and talked to her friends, and I was okay. Now, was I a little brat about it? Of course, but I was okay. I wasn't like 3 years old, and she was like left me in the tent while she went and hollered for Bigfoot. So my kids have been.
Even though you were dragged and you didn't want to be there, and they scared you to death, you were paying attention.
Yes,
you were paying attention. You were learning.
I was. And so I didn't really realize how much information had been absorbed in here until later. I realized
it's like now she knows everything all of a sudden.
Well, it's like I knew a bunch. And so it was like after the years of going out researching and being raised with all the different people that were researching at the time, all the different techniques, eventually the different technology and the phases of technology. So I've got to witness from when night vision was the big thing, but only no civilians really had it. And if they did, it was like a military night vision, and they had, paid buku bucks for it. And cassette audio recorders, parabolic dishes were the new thing, and they were just a huge new thing. Stuff like that, to where now we have thermal and drones and all this stuff. But back then we did. So I've watched the phases throughout the years, and then we had the podcast, and we've interviewed over 300 researchers. And so I found that my brain is just like this Google search engine for Bigfoot, because if you say water sighting, I can come up with at least 2 sightings that I have heard about that involved water. One was fishing and one was boating. And so it's just like I have all this information. And so finally, whenever I took over Nite Callers, I realized I'm like, I have this font of information inside my head, and I could use this, to interview, but also to educate. And so I came up with different series to tell those experiences. So
that's exactly why I do it. I do it to get some information out to people, make them aware. And I love to talk to people like yourselves and all these. You learn so much. It's just not, like you said at the beginning of the show, it's just not knocking on trees and hooting and hollering. You can actually track them if you learn, if you listen and you learn. You can actually know where they are. You can look at a path through the woods and know that maybe the Sasquatch is taking that path because you see the snap or you see this, and it's very important. And you guys got a wealth of knowledge to share, and I don't even know where to go next. But well, let's go to your favorite place that you guys like to go and do investigating at as a duo. As your favorite place. I mean, you've been everywhere. What's the favorite place or the most memorable place you've been?
Booger Hill.
Probably where I live. Yeah.
So she lives, like probably the last show, she lives in East Texas in the Piney Woods. She lives in the middle of nowhere in an old renovated log cabin, and she's surrounded by prime Bigfoot woods. And so she has the luxury to step off her front porch and do research. And so many a night, after we put the kids to bed and everything, she and I will go sit out on the porch with all the lights out. She's got a screened-in porch that faces the woods and the pond. And we'll sit there and we will just listen. We might do a call, or we might, just invite them in, or, whatever we feel like doing at the time. And we've had some of my most prominent activities have happened there. I've been growled at on that porch. I have had a semi sighting on that porch. I've had some very weird acoustics on that porch.
It's really strange the way the land's laid out. You can, like, 2 people can be sitting next to each other, And one will say, I heard it over there. And I will say, I heard it over there. It bounces around off the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And so the acoustics there are just real strange.
But I meant the thumping that we heard.
Oh, yes.
And then the eye shine. I've seen eye shine out there just so many times.
Moving shadowy shapes.
Mm-hmm. She's had something knock on her house. It's just very active out there. And so I would say that's our favorite place to research, that we don't have to go very far. Other than that, I'd say Southeast Oklahoma and the Kiamichis.
Yeah, but you know where I like? Falk.
Yeah.
Alex Smith Park.
Yeah, we don't really go research out there a lot.
You don't have to go anywhere. All you have to do is sit there at the fire, set up your recorder out in the woods, and the rest of it's like catfishing.
Yeah.
You just throw your bait out there and just set your pole in the little coil thing and wait. And that's the way it is at Falk.
Yeah.
I love that place. I've had more recordings from that place. Now, where I live on Booger Hill, we have a compressor station not too far away. And that really messes with my recording. So as a recording person who loves the recording aspect, Alex Smith Park in Doldridge, Arkansas is the best place I've ever researched as far as what I've gotten.
Well, what's the craziest experience you've had?
Which one?
Alone or apart, it doesn't matter.
My craziest experience would be the when I got growled at.
On the porch at Booger Hill.
On the porch, we had we were doing a live call-in show for Nite Callers back on Blog Talk Radio, and we had just finished the live show, and I was sitting on the porch. She was on the other end of the porch on the phone, and I think
we were still on the show.
We weren't.
Okay.
I looked off and I saw eye shine, and it was a yellowish gold. And I looked and I was like, "Is that eye shine?" But I didn't say anything. And then I saw it again right here, and I was like, thinking to myself, I wonder if it's moving. I'm like, a few minutes later, I was like, oh, I wonder if it is behind those bushes. You have that intrusive thought, like when you're in the kitchen making a sandwich and like, ooh, I wonder if someone's standing behind me. It was like that, but I was looking at this bush and I was just like, I wonder if it's behind that bush. That would be scary. And then it growled at me from behind the bush. And the only way I can describe it is if its chest was just huge, like a barrel-chested growl. And it wasn't, if it was a cat, it was a 500-pound cat. I mean, it was huge, and it rattled my chest. And I reached down and grabbed my chair. Actually, my fight or flight kicked in. And I didn't want to leave my mom behind to be eaten because I'm a great kid. And I was an adult at this time. So I'm a great daughter.
I know, but I taught you they won't hurt you. So
it doesn't matter if something that big growls at you.
Okay.
So anyway, so I reached down and grabbed my chair and pulled my bottom against my chair so I wouldn't run and leave my mother to be eaten. And so I sat there and I was like, Mom, whispering because, it can't hear me. And I'm like, did you hear that? Did you hear that? And she's at the other end and she's like looking at me and I'm like, did you hear that? She's like, that was a semi-truck on the highway. And I mean, she lives very far from the highway and you can't.
Is that your dog snoring?
Yes.
Okay.
He has breathing problems. He's trying to do sound effects for the show. So anyway, she says it's a semi-truck on the highway. And I'm like, that wasn't a truck. You live 20 miles past the middle of nowhere. That wasn't a damn truck. So I finally just was like, so I was like, whatever, she's going to be eaten. So I went inside and I woke my ex-husband up at the time. And I was like, hey. And he said I was white and clammy. And I said, it growled at me. It growled at me. And he's like, what growled at you? And I'm like, Bigfoot growled at me. And he's like, okay. And then I think it was like a week or two later, we were talking about it, and she's like, I heard what you heard, but you were so damn terrified. I didn't want to say anything. She said, so I told you it was a semi truck. That's one of those, it's okay. It's not going to get you type of moments.
But that was a little farther down the line than 13 years old.
It did, didn't it? I was 24, 23.
Yeah.
That's happened a couple of times on my show. I was interviewing Angie, Snow White Bigfoot, and something came up and slapped the side of her house right while we were on the air. And she went out afterwards, and she went out and brought her phone with her, and there was a big handprint on the side of her. Look, I got the goosebumps just talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Side of her window where she was sitting. It was amazing. So I think, I don't know. Do you think they have like a sixth sense when you're talking about them, or they just are they just curious to be around? What do you think?
Well, this one, because I looked at the base of that bush and I was thinking to myself, because I saw the eye shine and then that, and I was thinking to myself like, what if it was behind that bush? And I was looking down, and that's when it growled. And so when it growled, it was almost like, stop looking at me, you're going to give me away, is kind of the vibe I got. And I'll let you know, like, whenever it happened, I was offended. My first response before fear was offense. I was offended that it was growling at me on my porch. How dare you? But after thinking about it later, I really think that by looking, it had snuck up on us, and I was looking at it, and it did not like that. It was like, hey, don't give me away. This is my spot. I like to watch you guys from this spot. And anyway, so
have you ever, and I'm sure you have, everyone's heard of the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone will say something and they'll go, oh, don't speak it into the universe, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I really and truly believe they pick up when you are thinking about them and you're talking about them. And I think they pick up on that. They're no different than anything else in this world that will pick up if you're thinking about it enough. And when I first started going out in the woods, I was constantly thinking about them. And I'm thinking, well, did they make this formation? Is this tree bow theirs? I'm looking for their tracks. I'm looking for any kind of evidence that I can find, but I'm thinking about it. So, yeah, you know, we had a show. We were talking about them. And then the next thing we know, we have one that has belly crawled to a pretty substantial bush. But the way the bush was made, it could have laid on the ground and looked right up underneath it at her. And also, I want to say this. I think that they love it when people are new and scared or unnerved. I think they get a kick out of it.
That's rude.
And I know it's rude, but what else do they have to do?
I mean, I could see if it was like a juvenile and he thought he was going to get away with being that close to us, and he just was
like counting coup kind of thing.
Yeah, he was like, dang it, she saw me, stop looking at me, I don't know. But I'm
thinking the same thing. I think he's seen you, or she seen you look at him and saw the eye shine, and he wasn't having it. He wasn't happy, or she wasn't happy. That's my take on it.
Yeah, we've had some experiences. She's had a lot. She's like Grasshopper said in there. This one, she's watched one spider crawl, belly crawl up like a spider, and just it grosses me out. But she's watched them. She watched one do that one night, and luckily I wasn't there because I would have soiled my pants and never gone out to her house ever again. So I'm better now. So growing up, I grew up with this woman who was not scared of one damn thing in the entire world.
Except other people,
which is me. She would not hesitate to walk out into the woods, no light, no nothing. And she was just so brave or stupid, or I don't know, whatever. Curious. She wasn't scared of anything.
Stupid too.
She wasn't scared of anything.
A lot of people thought I was. They would tell me, you're going to get killed.
I get that
because you're so stupid, you go right, but I really am respectful because I know how far is my space and how far is their space, and I'm not going to go tromping off through the woods at night because, well, I do like to do night hikes, but I try to remain on a trail so that they have this side of the trail and that side of the trail, and I just got the trail. And, well,
my point was that she wasn't scared of anything. And I was terrified. I mean, absolutely terrified being out there with her. And then as I got older and had my own kids and all that, I turned into the fearless one. I was tromping off in the woods, no headlamp, or I would have my headlamp off, and I was, tromping off on a night hike by, just going and finding all the good scary spots, and I was catching the same flack, and I wasn't as nice as her, and I got in a few of my male researchers' faces to let them know that, if I was a man, they wouldn't be saying that to me.
They wanted to protect the little woman.
Well, that was nice of them. So I would tromp off in there, and so it's like, and then she has come to a spot where she's still curious and she'll still go out, but she's more cautious about it and more safe about it.
Yeah,
now.
Because I can't run as fast as I used to.
So we've kind of swapped places almost. I was terrified, and then I became curious, and it's like, I want to have a sighting, I want to have an experience, and I'm going to go get it. And so I'm tromping off in the woods because I'm not going to find it in the tent. And so whenever I would go get out and do that, I would catch the same flack that she always caught, but it helped me to understand a lot of how she was when I was growing up and how fearless she seemed to me and all of that. And it's really just, it was curiosity and a passion for finding out what this is,
But if you put a spider on me, I will tear the house down to get that thing off of me. It's so funny how a little 8-legged thing will scare me a whole lot worse. Do you think they're back?
They're back. If you put a spider on her,
shut the door.
I will not do that.
Oh, you got the thing.
I will not do that thing where I pulled myself into my seat to save her so she wouldn't get eaten. If there's a spider on her, I just actually, one of the scariest moments of my life, I was carrying my infant son in a little carrier on my front, and I was walking with her, and I'm so glad you think it's funny.
I still do. I laugh then, I will.
So a spider dropped down in front of me, and it landed between my son and myself in that carrier. And I am just freaking out trying to unsnap this thing and bend over and not drop him on the floor. And she is over there about to pee her pants laughing so hard. So just know that, like, the feeling's mutual. If she has a spider on her, you got a spider on you, you better get it off. But when it comes to Bigfoot, we go camping together a lot. We go research together a lot. And
we're the best research partners to each other.
We have that nonverbal communication, like wake up in the middle of the night and just kind of reach over, barely touch her hand. And
we do all hand signals.
And she looks at me and, we just know. And so researching, we have each other's backs. If there's a spider, it's every girl for herself. So
okay, you guys are definitely a breath of fresh air for the program. We needed a night like tonight. You guys bring a smile to our face and learning a lot, and I want to thank you for that. We needed a little bit of that here. Is there a spot at Booger Hill that you guys will not go to?
Yes, actually, across her property, there's an old hunting cabin. I call it the serial killer cabin. It's a one-room cabin with a loft. And it's got sliding glass doors on all four sides. And so if you're in this cabin, it's a fishbowl. Now, in this cabin, it's kind of a old, the newest item in there might be from like 1980s.
Yes. Everything in there is from the 1980s.
And
it's
got
like it just was abandoned.
It's a time capsule, and it's like how to survive off grid, how to, do all of this stuff, which is great, except it's very creepy. It's like a serial killer cabin. So we went there actually before that live show where I was growled at. She and I had hiked out there, and we were in that cabin sitting at the table, and the brush from the woods, so the woods press up on the cabin from all sides. There's barely room to walk out the door to get away from the cabin.
True.
And there's no road, there's no real driveway to it or anything like that. It's very scary. And so we were out there, I got chills, and we're doing this show, and I was just sitting there like so uncomfortable. Like I wanted to leave. It was oppressive. I felt like I was in a fishbowl and that we were in danger, but I wasn't going to say anything. And then finally she's like, "You ready to go?" And I'm like, "Hell yes, let's go. Let's get out of here." I was so scared. And, but that place, I went back years later. I was with some friends of ours that had never been to her house before. And we went down to the creek, and we had smelled a strong smell of urine down there that was kind of moving. And then I said, well, let's go to the cabin. So we went to the cabin, and this person had a Jeep, and we had all the windows down. And I'm sitting in the back seat, and I'm in the very middle. And my brother was next to me, and he's like, "Can you scoot over?" I was like, "No, absolutely not. I know what's out here." And those two researchers were very brave. I've hiked off with them in the middle of creation for a 5-day, expedition, and with no way out but our legs, and, watch them be very brave. But that night in the Jeep, they would not get out of the Jeep at that cabin. They would not exit that. They were like, "No, we're good. We're going to stay right here." And it was that cabin on her property is very creepy. But there's also been a report from years and years ago of a dogman sighting there. Actually,
it wasn't that cabin; it was the home place on the other side of our place. Yeah.
So her house sits in between these two dilapidated, creepy cabins that are serial killer hideouts. And but there's a creek that runs behind her property, and it runs behind both of those cabins too. So Bigfoot or Dogman or whatever could easily use that creek. They travel the creeks. They could easily use that creek to navigate that area, never be seen, never, and just get from one place to the other pretty quickly and easily.
Yeah, I'm in no hurry to see anything that looks like a Dogman at all. I have no urge at all.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I have
this sighting was back in 1975.
Yeah.
And it was back when that house actually had people living in it. Of course, it's falling down now. It's probably over 150 years old. Mm-hmm. But anyway, she described exactly what other people have described on Dogman. And I'm like, well, I hope they only live 20 years.
And don't procreate at all.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping like, how some people will think there's only one Bigfoot. Well, I kind of hope there's only one Dogman. And I hope he's gone.
He's like Santa Claus. He just pops up like a nightmare.
So 200 plus episodes on Nite Callers. Who was your favorite to listen to on the program? Who would come back the most? Who do you guys enjoy listening to the most? Because everybody has their favorites. Not like their favorite, but who'd you get the most out of, like learn the most from? We'll put it that way.
God, we learned from everybody.
Yeah. We've had 300 episodes actually. So it's and again, so much has changed over the past 20 or decade on our show, but over the last 20 years that we've been researching. So we've been uploading the archived episodes from when we had Graz and all the other hosts on. And
I haven't got to the Graz episodes yet.
Yeah, right now it's just Cherokee, but it's there's so many. I know that we we had Greg Yost on quite a few times.
Yes.
He was amazing.
Yeah, he did come to my mind too.
Yeah, we had him quite a few times. Michael Kane Michael. We had him on a few times. He's one of my personal favorite researchers because he has taught me so much over the years. I was lucky enough to go to Kentucky on an expedition with him for 5 days out in the middle of the Daniel Boone National Forest. And I learned more in that 4 or 5 days than I've learned with any other group that I've researched with. He's an amazing dude. And he taught me so much about how to track, kind of what they're, how they think, what they do, things that answers I've been looking for my entire life. And that trip was so enlightening, but he was great on the show. He runs House of Enoch and all that on his YouTube channel. More recently, Mike Ann, he was really great with tactical Bigfoot research. So he was pretty great. We've had a lot on who have passed away.
So many good ones, that
we've had a lot who have passed away.
Yes.
We've lost a lot of good ones. Linda Godfrey, we were one of the first shows that she did. And so East of Bray Road back in the day. We were one of the first to have Henry Franzoni on.
What a fiasco that caused.
We almost lost our co-host over that because he was
very out there, and when he was talking about the Men in Black
he was talking about cloaking.
And
our co-host, it was not accepted then to talk about that kind of stuff. That was absolute no in the Bigfoot world, and we almost lost our co-host over that one
because they were basically very grassroots, and they did not have any intention of them being an alien or anything else, or having any special abilities. They were flesh and blood, and oh my gosh, we had a private PM. Oh, it was blowing up.
It was rough.
And I'm thinking, and then after the show,
we got an earful about that one, but we had no idea that he was into that. Now you have more open-minded individuals that are open to discussing the more out there elements of Bigfoot possibly could have, and back then though, you didn't talk about cloaking, you didn't talk about interdimensional, you didn't talk about mind speak, which is a term that I absolutely hate because it's redundant to me. You didn't talk about those things. So anyways, but we've had some great ones on over the years. We had David Pilates way back in the day.
4411.
Yeah. We have one of my personal favorites was Doug Hychek because
I was going to say Doug
because he delved off into infrasound, which is very important to me because it's something I've experienced so much over the years. And the fact that he not only believes in it, but he's trying to scientifically prove it and he's doing a study into it and kind of has some data to back it up. And that was near and dear to my heart. So I was very excited about that.
Yeah, I've had Doug on too. I'm actually going to Snow Grove Lake with Doug in August.
Awesome.
I'm very excited to make that trip. We got, speaking of Kane, I got Eric Tipton is coming on the show in 2 weeks too. So he's another one that's a whiz in the woods too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's I went on that expedition with him also. So it was him and Kane Michael, Larry Church, Mark Newbill, Spencer Jameson. They said it was Beauty and the Beasts is what it was called, that expedition. But it was great. We went out there. It was a mile or two hike in during a blizzard, and we stayed for 4 or 5 days and then hiked out, and it was enlightening. I learned so much while I was out there. So the one night we didn't have hardly any activity while we were out there. That was kind of a bummer, but one night I saw eye shine, and I was facing away from the fire watching, and Mark Newbill was over by his hammock, and he was shining his light looking for something. And so I turned around to see what his light would catch when they thought we weren't paying attention, and I saw eye shine. And I'm zooming in on it with, just kind of looking like, what is that? And Eric walked up and pushed me off my rock that I was standing on, and I lost the eye shine. And I was like, I saw eye shine. I was looking at it. And he's like, oh, hell, I'm sorry. Like, he had no idea, But
Awesome. Yeah, they're a bunch of great guys. I like Larry and Mark. I like Spencer's a great friend of mine. I talk to Spencer all the time. So great bunch of guys. So yeah, you can learn a lot from that group. That's for sure. 100%.
Yeah, they're a knowledgeable bunch for sure.
Yeah. We're gonna start taking some questions here. We're already almost at the hour mark already. I can't believe it. But do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with your sons and talk about the project you got going on with the young Bigfooters a little bit before we take a question?
Absolutely. So, I call it Little Footers, the next generation. And so I am talking about getting them out, getting them into nature, whether that's, outside in your backyard or out to a national forest, hiking. You can take them to the city park, have them start looking around at their surroundings, look at the flora and fauna of the area, and start looking for what wildlife is in their area. And when they get out to places where there are Bigfoot, start looking at, can this habitat support a Bigfoot, stuff like that. And when you're getting them out there, you can use Bigfoot as a lure. You can say, hey, let's go look for Bigfoot and get them out into nature, but also do so safely. Have them, teach them to be prepared at all times. Have, food, water, they're packed, tell someone where they're going. Obviously don't send them out alone if they're too young, that kind of thing, but also to always be aware of their surroundings, whether they're in the middle of Walmart or out in the woods, to be aware of their surroundings. Teach them how to read a map, teach them how to check out the geography and terrain of an area. There's just so much that I believe that we can teach them. Evidence collection, data analysis, all of those things. It's never too early to start teaching them about this. Teach them to be skeptical. Don't teach them just to accept that Bigfoot's real because you say it is. My 10-year-old, if you ask him, his mom is a Bigfoot researcher and her face is plastered all over YouTube and all of this. But if you ask him, hey, do you believe in Bigfoot? He'll tell you no. He'll say no, not until it's proven to me, and it hasn't been yet. So no, I don't. He's been out with me quite a bit. He's, been out there on dead nights. He's been out there on a few active nights, and he doesn't just blindly believe. But most of all, make it fun.
He gets that from me.
Do you know?
He do. I didn't believe it at all until I saw one.
You wanted to believe.
I wanted to really bad, but
so basically just get them out, get them into nature. And
she also talked to scout troops too.
I've done a few presentations for the Cub Scouts. I have to tell you, when you're out in the woods I say kids, and that's the next generation isn't just kids. The next generation is anybody who's interested in this topic. So that could be little kids all the way up to adults. We have an obligation to train these guys up right, guys and girls, theys, thems, and we have an obligation to give them good information, teach them that not everything is Bigfoot. That tree bow, you have to prove that Bigfoot did that Mother Nature could not have made this happen. You have to train them right scientifically, but also when you're out with these kids or, young people, I will tell you, they notice so much more than adults do. Like, you get out there and you're thinking about like, yeah, I'm out here, but I got to get back and I gotta pay that, that bill, and I gotta go to the dentist and all this. Well, kids are out there and they're like, oh, there's a big shadow behind that tree, and I like that red flower. Like, they notice so much more than we do because they don't have that background buzz going on. But also their imaginations are so fertile. I was giving my speech to the Cub Scout troops, and these scouts came up with ways that they would catch Bigfoot. And some of them were so inventive. It was amazing. I was just like, that might actually work, kid. You should grow up and try that, Like, it was really wonderful. But they have a little passion for the topic, and you can nurture that by getting them out and getting them into nature. Everyone gripes about screen time and how kids are always on their devices, and I'm like, this is a great way to get them off of that device, out in the woods with you, and get some quality time in, but also raise them to be responsible adults that take care of their environment, get out into nature and learn skills for themselves, independence, confidence, and maybe see Bigfoot too. We don't know.
That's awesome. What do you think is the too young? Well, what do you think is too young of an age to do it? I mean, 4 or 5, is that's a little too young?
I mean, I've gone out.
I'm going to say 5 and under, too young.
I've had my 3-year-old out there with me, and that, I always tell people, don't use your kids as bait. I'm not telling you to tie a stake around their neck and leave them in a field and see what happens. I'm asking you to keep them safe. Part of that is keeping them away from dangerous situations. Don't get into a situation where you can't get out of easily with your child. Always, remember who's with you and protect them first. But again, like I said in the beginning of the show, don't tell them scary stories either.
Well, and crying infants
are supposed to bring them in. Again, don't use them as bait, but
be resourceful.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. They're not going camping with you anymore. No, I think that my oldest, I believe, was 5 when I took him on his first expedition. And we did a night expedition, a night op. But we had a way out of there. We had a side-by-side that we sat in the middle of a field, a way to get out of there safely. Every single person around me, including myself, was carrying. We made sure it was a safe way. And when he said he was ready to go, I was like, okay. I said, that's fine, and he actually ended up falling asleep before we left. But, a lot of people do not want kids out there. They don't believe that it's safe for kids, and stuff like that, which I agree and also disagree, because I think that they should be savvy, have some experience in nature, camping and that kind of thing before you take them out on maybe a full-blown expedition. But I think that if you have a way to safely have them out there, it just kind of depends where the area is and what you're doing. There's some expeditions that I probably wouldn't take my kids unless they were teenagers. Just because
it's so dark.
Intense.
It's very dark. The woods are very close. Mm-hmm. And if they get out of your sight, they could get lost.
But I don't terrify my children. I give them the truth that Bigfoot is a wild creature. They're unpredictable. You have to show respect. You don't just, blatantly run out there like you're invincible.
On the other hand, I love to terrify kids.
She really does.
I'll have to keep my grandbaby away from the legend.
Yes. Yeah, she doesn't hold back. Sometimes I'll look at her and I'm just like, Mom, shut. My God, they're not going to sleep tonight. But no, I mean, we've had them both out with us,
but they love me.
They do love her, and sometimes they love to go out and research. Other times they're kind of just like, they love to go camping. They've learned all kind of skills out there, just various bushcrafting skills and just all about wildlife and nature. And they love that they're in their element in the outdoors, which is great, because I've taught them that, nature is, kind of like our church. Like, that's our sanctuary. That's where we go to relax. That's where we go to, connect. And so I want that place to be a place of peace for them, but also I want them to be aware of what is in the woods. And we've yet to see a Bigfoot while the kids were with me, but we've seen hogs, and that was literally terrifying. We've seen all kinds of different creatures out there that could have harmed us. And so just kind of, that's, again, I tell them, be aware of your surroundings, be safe when you go, all of that stuff. So
awesome. All right, we're going to take a couple questions, and then let you guys get on with your night. Here's the first one from Miss Diane Fowler. She asked, do you have any videos or recordings from the porch?
Yes.
Yes. Recordings, I would say. I don't think we have any videos.
I do have some videos, but they're like old, and I have to get them transferred.
Yes.
But I do have recordings, and you can find some of them. I'm working on the website. It's a YouTube channel called Squatchy Nights Audio. It's NITE, Squatchy Nights Audio. And I have been working to put that up, but I haven't been working on it very good here lately. In fact, it's probably been about a year since I put anything up, but I have quite a few recordings on there, but some of the best ones I still don't have up.
Yeah.
So I said I was going to work on that this summer, and I'm really trying.
Her garden took precedence.
I know. I've been canning and everything else. So, now that my garden is pooping out, maybe I will have some more chance to have more of an opportunity to do it. But it's Squatchy Nights Audio.
Yeah, she has a lot. She caught the one that hit the side of her house on audio. She has a lot of weird audio out there, but the thing I love about her audio the most is that she's been doing this for 20 years. So as many amazing things as she's caught, like siren screams and whoops and hollers and all that, she's caught things that are educational as well. Like for me personally, I have never, thank you, Cashew. I have never caught a hog on audio. She has. That's one of the first videos you'll see on there. She's caught what sounds like an elk bugling near her house. And so we've looked, and I'm not sure if there's an exotic ranch near her or
there's not.
But it sounds like an elk bugle. And it's very odd because that's not something that we normally have in East Texas. But there's a lot of great audio that she's caught, a lot of great things that have happened that we didn't catch on audio, which was, for instance, one night we were sitting out there and I kept hearing this whoomp, and it sounded almost like a car door closing. And I was just thinking, I'm like, there's no one out here. Like, why would someone be slamming their door over and over? And we heard it, and it was odd. Well, the next day I was walking around the back of the garden, and there was a burn pile there with an old laundry basket turned over on it that was, broken. And next to it was a piece of wood. It looked like a shillelagh almost. A piece of wood with a big, thick thing on the end. And I looked at it, and I was
like, this cord feels like a spider. Sorry.
So I looked at it, and I thought to myself, no way. I was like, there's no way. So I picked it up, and I whomped the end of that laundry basket, and it was the same noise. And I was just like, and we had been having activity around that time. And I was like, there's no way. And so I went and got her, and I put her on the porch, and I'm like, just listen and tell me what you hear. And I went back over there, and I got the stick, and I whomped it a couple times. And I went back, I'm like, did you hear that? And she's like, yeah. And I said, that's what we were hearing last night, right? And she's like, yeah. She's like, I couldn't really hear it very well, but yeah, that sounds like it. And I'm like, that was that laundry basket over by the woods where it wouldn't have been seen if it was out there whomping that laundry basket. So there's a lot of weird stuff that's happened out there that I wish we had on audio.
Just like the ground pounding, that's something that, like, if we have a strange person come out there that they're not familiar with, especially a male, they'll ground pound, and it doesn't happen every time. It's just certain individuals
set them off.
And so you're not recording during the day, and
that's how that goes.
But anyway, that's the answer to that question.
Pretty wild.
I'm gonna promise I will try to get the rest of them up.
Well, make sure you leave the link with me or after the show, and I'll put it in the description for everybody so they can find everything too.
Thank you.
Al Santoriga asks, do they protect themselves spiritually as well as physically when they go out researching?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. And I bring sage with me, and I bring actually tobacco now. I bring tobacco with me after last time, and I had a spot. There was a lot of weird stuff going on, and I was completely sober, but I was hallucinating in this spot. I was woke up and there was water pouring in my tent, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I woke up and there's nothing there, and I'm just like,
"Are you talking about Toadstone?"
Mm-hmm. And my dog was running around like he had something on his face, and he was scratching, and then it was a lot of weird stuff at that place.
Very oppressive. She told me, "I can't wait to take you to this place because it's so creepy."
Mm-hmm.
And I got there and I waited, and the first night, nothing. And I go, how creepy is this place supposed to be? I mean, it was terrible. And then the next night.
Well, she called it out too. She was like, "If you're going to do something," which, as we all know, is how the person dies in the horror movie every time.
Well, anyway, we started getting this just a feeling of
oppression.
Yeah, dark, very strong, very kind of almost an angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wow, and if you pay attention, when you start getting this, you can almost tell what direction it's coming from. Because that infrasound is directional. It's not spread out all over. Usually it's focused on one individual.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time we were all experiencing infrasound, and I got behind this big, he's gone now, but he was a big fella. He was probably as wide as he was tall. But anyway, when I got behind him, I couldn't feel it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually, was blocked. So, but that night, it was very uncomfortable. And I think that it went on all night long. We just got tired and went to sleep. But with her, I think because it was sending that evil,
it wasn't evil. It was just a strong feeling of you need to leave. I don't want you here. I don't like you here. If I push enough of this on you, you'll leave. It was kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's what made her have those creepy dreams or whatever they were.
But yes, we do protect ourselves spiritually as well as physically. Because as my dear friend Jonathan Odom says, there are more things in the woods than just Bigfoot.
Yeah.
100%. I agree with you there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got time for, we'll take this question and then I'll scroll. Gary Spike Sr. asks, have you ever researched around Sulphur, Oklahoma?
We sure have.
Yeah, I have done a lot of research around Sulphur, Oklahoma.
We have. I had the weird, I still don't know what it was. It was the creepiest thing I've seen to this day. I was looking through night vision. I was on the trail. We were on a blackout hike.
I got a story after hers.
We were on a blackout hike with me, her, and Mark Newbill. And I was walking behind her, and Mark was behind me. And we were kind of just walking in a straight line. But I was looking around with the night vision. And I found the armadillo there are so bad. They are just menaces. And so you think there's something over there. You look, it's an armadillo just rooting around with his blind little self. And I saw him, and I kind of panned to the right and panned back. Because where I heard the noise coming from wasn't where the armadillo was. And so I was like, well, that's weird. And I panned, and this something, I will tell you honestly, it looked like a Bigfoot or a naked person bent over, and I could see the back of them, and it was like they were bent over. I couldn't see their head. I could see their back and legs, and it was going like this, like bouncing. And I thought, like, maybe that's a branch bouncing. And I looked around, and there was no wind blowing. No other branches were moving. And it was just consistent, like it was just rocking almost in place. And she had stopped because I uttered, a curse word, like, what the And then she stopped, and I'm still looking at this thing, and I slammed into the back of her. And then Mark Newbill slammed into the back of me, and I lost whatever it was, and I tried to find again, and I couldn't find where it was.
We were over there behind the Nature Center at
on the white, on the white gravel trails, because Gary was asking. It was very creepy, very creepy.
Where I was at, this was several years earlier, and we were camping out there and doing research, and that particular weekend, well, there were two different things. One time, I heard, I was going with some friends down behind the nature trail, and we were feeling infrasound. Well, they were acting all goofy and trying to walk through it, and saying, "Oh, I can get through it." And well, I just kind of hung back, and I was just watching, and I could really barely see them because it was dark. Mm-hmm. I mean, about the only thing you could see was the light of the gravel because it was a white rock, but that was about. And I could hear movement on both sides of this trail, but of course there were a lot of armadillos. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I hear right here above my head, I hear a stomach turnover. Yeah, like digestive, like a nervous stomach sound, and it was above my head, like right here. And I just believe that if I had reached out, I could have touched her, but I just could not see it. Well, it scared me so bad. I was so unnerved because it was so close. I smelled nothing other than that, and I heard it twice. The second time, I was sure that's what it was. So I turned around and I left my friends, which we teach that to, that was our motto. You're on your own. Nobody saves anybody. You are on your own. And so they were on their own. And
I didn't realize this was a motto before I went out with you. I'm reading our partnership.
Well, I would never do that to you, my love.
Oh. She gave up the secret earlier. She said she can't run that fast anymore. So
yeah.
No more. Yeah, there you
go. Don't leave your mama.
I'll put you out of your misery before you get to
Oh my God.
So happened, and then it was at a different outing at the same place, but we were camping, and we were actually packing up. It was on a Monday, and there was no one in the park. Everyone had left, and it was about noon, and we had everything packed up, and I was just sitting out on the picnic table looking towards the bathrooms. And I'll be doggone if I don't see one running from tree to tree, almost like a cartoon character. He was just like, he'd run from one. He was solid black and kind of small. He was probably about 6 foot. He was probably juvenile. But he ran from this tree to this tree, then this tree to this tree, and then this tree. So I just zoned in on that tree, and I walked straight for it. And I said, I'm going to find him. And I just kept, and I watched that tree, and he never left. And I said, when I get to the other side of that tree, I'm going to see him. When I got there, he was not there. And I looked across the road, and I could see the grass moving as he moved on. So he stayed within the line of that tree, across that road, and went into that grass.
Very quick and smart, that's for sure.
Yes. So that's the gist of that. That's a small piece of what we've experienced over the years and everything. But
the Chickasha used to be a hot spot. I don't know if it still is or not.
Yeah, well, Gary Spikes said Veterans Lake and Arbuckle Lake will give you a lot of activity also. We went and walked Veterans Lake with the Sisters of the Moon.
Yeah.
We didn't. There was nothing there, but
that's the one where you tried to climb Mark Newbill's tried to climb on top of his head. Yeah, she heard something.
I heard a rabbit-dillo come out of the brush, but something small coming out of the brush, it can sound like it's 10 foot tall, and it startled me, and I'm very embarrassed to admit that I used that man like a human shield and pulled him in front of me to take the brunt of that rabbit-dillo or whatever it was, the tactical assault possum that was coming at us. And yeah, but that's about all that happened on that trip. It was nightmare.
The armadillos do make quite the racket running through the woods. They do. It does sound like a cow even running through the woods at times.
It does. They are fast and they are noisy. Well, actually, they're very slow until you spook them. Then they're fast. But oh my gosh, there's sometimes I'll have to run them off and they'll come back. So yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend some time with us here at Discover Sasquatch. I really enjoyed this interview. Like I said earlier, it was a breath of fresh air. I mean, you were smiling and joking and laughing and learning a lot, and it was awesome. And I really had a great time. And
thank you for having us.
And I appreciate it. And I'm very thankful that you took the time to come and visit.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having us on. We're always excited to get on the other side of the mic and kind of cut up a little bit because we have to be so serious on the show, So it's nice to be able to share our experiences with people and kind of let
we'll be doing
know.
A show tomorrow night on Nite Callers.
Yeah, so we're going to be back on tomorrow night on Nite Callers if you want to come join in the chat and ask your own questions and, yeah, so we'll be cutting up over there again tomorrow.
Probably worse. We've been behaving ourselves.
Yeah, we've been very good for you. So
yeah.
Awesome. So thank you. You want to stick around for the raffle, or do you guys want to get to the boys, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I think we're going to go see if the kids are tearing the house down in there. But thank you so much for having us on. Good luck to whoever wins the raffle. Congrats. And thank you again for having us on. It was an honor.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Laurie Dyer-Hood and Lauren A. Smith. All right. What a great show that was. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was probably one of my favorite shows I've done so far. We just hit 50 shows last week. Maybe one day we'll get to the 300 mark too. So let's get this raffle underway. Now, this has gone for about 3 interviews now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the first name, and you're going to win this mug, Discover Sasquatch mug, and the autographed copy of the Sasquatch Awareness Project by Scott Carpenter. There's the autograph. And then after that, I'm going to draw another name, and we're going to give away another mug. So you have 2 chances to win tonight. So here we go. First name. I'm going to shake it for a bit. I shook it earlier, but I'm going to shake it again. All right, here we go. Off comes the lid. Here's the cup. See me going into the cup. I'm digging in the cup. Digging. And there's the name right here. And the winner of the mug and the thing is Seminole War. Seminole War is the winner of the Sasquatch Awareness Project book and the mug. Congratulations, Seminole War. I will message you on the message you left on the show if you're not here tonight. And congratulations on winning the prize. All right, one more prize. I'm going to give away another mug. And then I'll let you guys all go on with your night too. All right, here we go. We're digging. Digging way down. Digging. Here we go. And the winner of the other mug is Miss Francesca E. Is the winner of the other mug, Francesca. I didn't show the other name either. Here's Francesca's name. Congratulations, Francesca. You won the other mug, and there's Seminole War. I didn't show you guys that either. If anybody knows Seminole War, I see Francesca's still here, so congratulations, Francesca, on winning the other mug. So, in 2 weeks, I'm on call for work next week, so we won't be here. In 2 weeks, we have Mr. Eric Tipton of the Appalachian Bigfoot explorer. The ladies talked a little bit about him tonight. He is partners with Kane, and they Mark Newbell and Larry and all them people, and so I'm looking very forward to it. I've actually had the chance to talk to him personally on the side about a few things, and I'm very excited to have him on the show. And again, I want to thank you all. Like I said earlier, when I was going through the names and seeing the same names and the comments and the kind words, and I really do love you all, and I really do appreciate you all. If you guys didn't know, I finally got back out into the forest on Sunday. I got cut short due to thunderstorms, but had a hell of a time with Larry. Went with me. It felt good to get back out again, and it's going to continue. So, with saying that, again, thank you all for being part of Discover Sasquatch. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this. And I consider you all my friends. And as Larry says, get in the woods, people.